The sun was warm on the small playground as children ran in every direction, laughing and calling to one another. Balls bounced, chalk drawings decorated the pavement, and the smell of fresh grass mixed with the faint aroma of nearby snack stands. It was a bright Saturday morning, and the community had organized a small event to encourage kids to join games, learn new skills, and simply have fun together. There was a sense of excitement in the air, a feeling that something new might happen, and that everyone could be a part of it. Near the edge of the playground, a little girl stood quietly, her small hands clutching the straps of her backpack. She watched the other children with wide eyes, seeing them dash, kick, and laugh with a confidence she didn't yet feel. Some kids had already formed teams, their voices loud and certain. Others were in smaller groups, sharing giggles and daring each other to try tricks and challenges. The little girl felt a tug of curiosity deep in her chest. She wanted to run, to join, to feel the thrill of being part of the fun. But she also felt a wave of hesitation that made her stay put. She noticed the older kids who seemed to know exactly what to do, their movements smooth and practiced. They threw balls with accuracy, ran without tripping, and shouted instructions to each other. She felt a mix of admiration and fear. What if she tried and failed? What if she wasn't good enough? She tugged at the hem of her shirt, trying to steady the nervous flutter in her stomach. Around her, parents and guardians watched from benches, some clapping when their own children succeeded, some calling words of encouragement. She saw smiles and cheers, but she also saw the judging glances that made her feel small. A small crowd had gathered near the center of the playground where a game was about to begin. The rules were simple: pass the ball, avoid being tagged, and keep moving. But even simple games felt complicated when everyone else seemed to know exactly what to do. She could hear the excited shouts and laughter, and her heart ached with the desire to be part of it. She imagined the feeling of running freely, of joining a team, of someone cheering for her when she succeeded. But the fear of making a mistake held her back, like an invisible weight pressing down on her small shoulders. She took a step forward, then hesitated. Another step, then froze again. Her eyes followed the ball as it bounced past, her ears tuned to the laughter and the shouts. One boy tripped over his own feet and fell, and for a moment, she almost smiled at the familiar sight. Everyone made mistakes, she realized. That thought gave her a tiny spark of courage, a small voice whispering that it was okay to stumble, it was okay to try. But the spark was still small, hidden beneath layers of doubt. Nearby, a group of kids were laughing as they shared tips and tricks for the game. They were friendly, but she felt invisible, as if she didn't belong. Her fingers curled around the straps of her backpack tighter, and she looked down at her shoes. She wished she could shout, "I want to play too!" But the words stuck in her throat. She imagined herself stepping forward, joining in, and the possibility felt thrilling yet terrifying. The question ran over and over in her mind. Can anyone really participate? A gentle voice broke her thoughts. An older child, noticing her hesitation, called out, "Hey, you can join if you want." The little girl's eyes widened. She hadn't expected anyone to notice her, let alone invite her. She looked at the other children who were playing and then back at the older child. Her heart pounded in her chest. Could she do it? Could she step forward and risk failing, risk laughter, risk everything? The pull of wanting to be part of the game fought against the fear that had held her still for so long. She thought about the times she had watched other kids play, how she had longed to join but always stayed on the sidelines. She remembered a time at school when she had been too shy to answer a question in class, and how she had felt small and invisible afterward. But this moment felt different. The invitation was real, the game was happening now, and the chance to take part was in front of her. She could almost feel the warm sun on her skin, the grass under her feet, the sound of laughter surrounding her if she only stepped forward. She took a deep breath and shifted her weight from one foot to the other. Her stomach fluttered as if full of butterflies. She looked around once more, seeing the kids moving, shouting and laughing. Some noticed her hesitance. Others were too busy to notice. The older child's voice echoed again, gentle and encouraging. "Come on, you can do it." Her small hand reached out, almost without thinking, and she took a single step toward the group. Another step followed, and another, until she was close enough to see the ball bouncing toward her. Her heart raced, but something inside her felt lighter, freer. The hesitation that had weighed on her seemed to melt a little with each step. She wasn't invisible anymore. She was here. She was ready to try. The ball rolled near her feet, and for a moment, she froze. Her mind raced. What if she couldn't catch it? What if she dropped it? What if they laughed? But then she remembered the spark she had felt earlier, the tiny voice whispering that everyone makes mistakes. She reached out and scooped the ball into her hands, her fingers closing around it. She looked up, seeing a few wide eyes and a couple of encouraging smiles. Her chest swelled with a small but powerful sense of pride. She had done it. She had joined. A cheer rose from the group, not loud or overwhelming, but enough to make her feel welcome. The older child nodded at her and said, "See? I told you." Her lips curved into a shy smile, and she passed the ball to the next player, heart still racing but filled with excitement. The game continued, and with each movement, each throw, and each laugh, she felt herself becoming part of something bigger. The fear had not disappeared, but it was no longer in control. She ran, stumbled, laughed, and even fell once, but every time she got up, she felt a little braver. Other children started noticing her, including a few who had been hesitant before. She felt included, seen, and for the first time in a long time, she felt like she belonged. The warmth of participation, of being part of a group, filled her chest with a feeling she had never fully known. It was thrilling, scary, and wonderful all at once. As the game went on, she began to understand something important. Participation was not about being the best or never making mistakes. It was about stepping forward, taking that first step, and daring to try. She realized that the question she had asked herself earlier, "Can anyone participate?" was not just about the rules of a game. It was about courage, about choosing to be part of something despite fear. She had chosen to try, and that choice had changed everything for her. By the time the game ended, she was panting, her face flushed with excitement and effort. She had laughed, made friends, and discovered a strength she hadn't known she had. As the children gathered to celebrate the small victories of the morning, she stood among them, no longer on the sidelines. She had stepped forward, and in doing so had discovered a new world of possibility. The question had been answered in the simplest way. Anyone could participate, and she had proven it with her own courage. Parents and guardians clapped, some noticing her in a way they hadn't before. Other children looked at her with admiration, inspired by the fact that she had dared to step forward. She held her head a little higher, her small body filled with confidence that came from trying and succeeding in her own way. The playground, once a place of hesitation and uncertainty, had become a place of belonging, laughter, and shared joy. The little girl looked around one last time before the group dispersed for a snack break. She felt proud, happy, and alive. She had taken the first step, and she knew it was only the beginning. The world of games, challenges, and friendship had opened up to her, and she felt ready to take part in whatever came next. And somewhere deep inside, she carried the knowledge that courage, no matter how small, could change everything. The little girl's heart was still racing as she continued to stand near the edge of the circle where the game had taken place. She had caught the ball once, passed it, and even managed a small cheer from the other kids. Her cheeks burned with excitement and a little embarrassment at the attention she had received, but she felt alive in a way she never had before. For the first time, she understood that stepping forward could lead to something wonderful, and she wanted more. The older child who had invited her gave her a nod and a smile, and the little girl realized that encouragement could make a huge difference. The nervousness she had felt before was still there, but it had softened, replaced by a tiny spark of confidence. She looked around at the other children, some still hesitating like she had, some laughing and running freely, completely absorbed in the game. She wanted to be part of all of it, to feel that sense of belonging, but the fear that had always held her back whispered in her mind. As the game restarted, she felt the urge to take another step closer. The ball rolled her way again, And this time she didn't hesitate. She bent down, scooped it up, and looked for someone to pass it to. Her fingers trembled slightly, but she didn't let go. She made a small movement toward another child, and when she passed the ball, the recipient smiled at her. That smile was like a warm wave washing over her, filling her with the feeling that she was truly part of something bigger. She had expected judgment, failure, maybe even laughter, but instead she found connection and acknowledgement. The game became a blur of movement, laughter, and shouts. She ran, dodged, and even tripped once, landing hard on the soft grass. Pain shot through her knees, and she felt a moment of panic, thinking she would be laughed at. But the children around her helped her up, patting her shoulder, offering words of encouragement. The warmth of their kindness eased her fear, and she realized that mistakes were not the end of the world. In fact, they could become moments of connection, of shared experience. She laughed, a little breathless, at her own clumsiness, and the others laughed with her. Not at her, but with her. As the game continued, she began to notice small shifts around her. A shy boy who had been standing alone at the edge of the playground suddenly moved closer. A quiet girl who had been watching from a bench stepped onto the grass. She realized that her own act of joining, simple as it had been, had given others the courage to try. It was as if her bravery had sent ripples across the group, quietly inviting others to participate. The thought warmed her heart. She hadn't intended to inspire anyone. She had only wanted to play. Yet, just by taking a step forward, she had unknowingly opened the door for others. Her confidence grew with each pass, each run, each shared laugh. She began to understand the rhythm of the game, predicting where the ball might go, moving just fast enough to catch it in time. She felt the thrill of momentum, the joy of being in sync with the others, the energy of a group moving together in harmony. Even when the ball went past her or someone else scored, she didn't feel discouraged. Instead, she cheered, clapped, and felt part of the celebration. It was no longer about fear or hesitation. It was about connection, participation, and joy. At one point, the older child called out, "You're doing great. Keep going." The little girl felt her chest swell with pride. She wasn't perfect, she hadn't played flawlessly, but she was trying, learning, and becoming part of the group. The encouragement from someone who had noticed her struggle gave her the courage to push herself further. She ran faster, reached out more confidently, and even offered tips to the younger children who were still hesitant. The feeling of helping someone else join was new, exciting, and deeply satisfying. It made her realize that being part of something meant more than just playing. It meant sharing, encouraging, and caring for others. Time passed quickly as the game went on. The little girl's legs ached, and her breath came in short bursts, but she hardly noticed. The energy of the group, the shared laughter, and the sense of accomplishment kept her moving. She found herself laughing without restraint, shouting without fear, and enjoying every moment fully. The playground, which had seemed so intimidating earlier, now felt like a space of possibility, where mistakes didn't matter and everyone could find their place. The fear that had held her back was still there, but it had transformed into something manageable, a quiet reminder that she could face challenges and still succeed. During a brief pause, the little girl leaned against a tree, wiping sweat from her forehead. She looked around, observing the other children who had joined since she first stepped forward. A small group now played together, forming a circle of laughter and movement. Some of the quieter children were gaining confidence, encouraged by the little girl's example. She realized that her decision to step forward had not only changed her own experience but had quietly shifted the dynamics of the entire group. She smiled, feeling a sense of accomplishment that went beyond personal success. She had sparked a chain reaction, simple and gentle, yet powerful. An adult approached and knelt beside her. "You did really well today," they said. "I can see you had fun. And you also made a difference for the other kids." The little girl looked up, surprised and pleased. She had not thought about inspiring others. She had only thought about joining in. The acknowledgement from someone she respected filled her with a sense of pride and happiness. She nodded shyly, a small smile spreading across her face, and felt a warm glow of satisfaction. It was a moment she would remember, a quiet victory that mattered deeply to her. The game resumed, and the little girl jumped back in, ready to continue. She noticed a few children who had still been hesitant, standing just outside the circle, unsure if they could join. She ran over to one of them and gently offered the ball. "You can try too," she said softly. The child hesitated, then took the ball with a tentative smile. Together, they passed it back and forth, and soon the circle grew larger as others joined in. The little girl's simple act of encouragement had created a welcoming space, and the sense of community expanded with each passing moment. As the morning sun climbed higher, the energy of the playground remained lively but warm. The little girl had grown in confidence, not just in playing the game but in believing in herself. She had discovered that stepping forward was the first step toward change, both for herself and for others. She had learned that courage could be small but meaningful, that encouragement could transform fear into excitement, and that inclusion was more powerful than any individual success. By the time the game ended for a short break, the little girl was panting, flushed, and smiling from ear to ear. She had laughed, stumbled, cheered, and shared moments of triumph and failure with the group. She realized that she had not only participated in the game but had contributed to a new sense of community and connection. She looked around, seeing the faces of children who had once hesitated, now smiling, laughing, and moving together with the same energy she had felt when she first joined. It was a quiet, beautiful transformation, and she had played a part in it. As she sat on the grass, sipping water and catching her breath, the little girl reflected on the morning. She had taken a risk, faced her fear, and stepped forward, and in doing so, she had discovered something extraordinary. Participation was not just about being good at a game. It was about courage, connection, and the willingness to try. She had experienced all of that and more, and she knew that this was only the beginning. The spark that had ignited when she first stepped forward now burned a little brighter inside her, guiding her toward future challenges, friendships, and moments of joy. The little girl looked at the other children, many of whom had now joined the group fully, and felt a warm sense of belonging. She understood that the simple act of stepping forward could change not only her own experience but also the experience of those around her. Her hesitation had been replaced by courage, her fear by excitement, and her doubt by a sense of possibility. The playground had transformed from a place of uncertainty into a space of inclusion and joy, and she had been a catalyst for that change. She smiled to herself, feeling proud, happy, and more confident than ever before. She had taken a step that seemed small at the time, but its impact had rippled far beyond what she could see. She had learned that trying, even when afraid, could open doors to new experiences, new friendships, and new possibilities. And as the children gathered for a short snack break, she knew that the courage she had found today would stay with her, guiding her in everything she chose to do next. After the short break, the children gathered again on the playground, the sun now shining a little higher in the sky, warming their faces and filling the day with a golden light. The little girl stood among them, her legs still a little sore from the morning's running, but her heart full of excitement. She had already discovered the joy of stepping forward, and now she wanted to see what else she could do. The game was about to start again, but this time the rules were slightly different. It was a more challenging version, and she felt a familiar flutter of nerves in her stomach. As the game began, the little girl ran with energy and determination. At first, she moved confidently, passing the ball and dodging others with ease. But soon she faced her first real challenge. A faster-moving ball came her way, and she misjudged it. She stumbled, falling hard onto the grass. Pain shot through her knees, and for a moment, she felt the familiar wave of fear and embarrassment. She quickly looked up, expecting the children to laugh at her mistake. But instead, she saw concerned faces and gentle hands helping her up. One child patted her back and whispered, "It's okay. You'll get it next time." That simple act of kindness gave her the courage to try again. She took a deep breath and focused on the ball as it rolled toward her again. She reached for it carefully this time, gripping it tightly, and managed to pass it accurately to another player. A small cheer went up, and her chest swelled with pride. She realized that mistakes were not the end. They were part of learning, part of growing, part of the experience. Each time she stumbled, she got up a little faster, moved a little more confidently, and smiled a little wider. She was learning that courage was not about never falling, but about rising again, stronger each time. As the game continued, she began to notice patterns and strategies, slowly understanding how the other children moved and passed. She started anticipating where the ball would go, and for the first time she felt a sense of mastery. Her hands were steadier, her movements more fluid, and her confidence grew with every successful pass and every shared laugh. She realized that she was not just participating. She was contributing. Her presence mattered, her effort mattered, and the other children noticed it too. Yet not every moment was easy. At one point, a group of older kids joined the game, moving faster and playing more aggressively. The little girl felt her nerves spike again, worried she might slow them down or make mistakes. She hesitated as the ball rolled toward her, unsure if she could handle the pressure. But then she remembered the encouragement she had received earlier, the gentle pats on the back, the smiles of those who had cheered for her. She took a deep breath and reached for the ball. She caught it, passed it carefully, and felt a wave of relief and pride wash over her. She had faced her fear and succeeded. Her confidence began to inspire others. A shy boy who had been standing alone finally stepped into the game, encouraged by the little girl's example. A quiet girl who had been watching hesitated at first, then joined in, laughing as she ran. The playground, once filled with hesitation and doubt, was now alive with energy and participation. The little girl realized that her courage had a ripple effect, quietly inspiring others to take risks, try new things, and step forward. She laughed freely, her heart light, and for the first time, she felt completely at ease in the group. The fear that had once held her back was no longer a barrier. It was just a small voice she could acknowledge and move past. She ran faster, passed the ball with more skill, and even offered tips to the younger children who were still learning. The joy of helping others, of being part of something bigger, filled her with a warmth she had never known. It was not just about winning or performing perfectly. It was about connection, encouragement, and shared experience. At one point, she found herself in a small moment of panic. The ball was coming fast, and she misstepped, almost dropping it. Her heart raced, and she felt the familiar fear creeping back. But before she could dwell on it, an older child called out, "You've got this." Their voice was calm, steady, and full of belief in her abilities. She focused, adjusted her hands, and successfully caught the ball. Relief and triumph filled her, and she realized that support from others could be just as important as her own courage. She began to understand that teamwork was not just about passing a ball. It was about trust, encouragement, and shared effort. As the game went on, the little girl's skills improved steadily. She ran with confidence, laughed without fear, and felt a deep sense of belonging. She made mistakes, of course, but each one was met with understanding and encouragement, not ridicule. She discovered that falling or failing did not define her. How she responded to it did. She learned to take a breath, focus, and try again. And with each attempt, she grew stronger, more confident, and more resilient. The energy of the playground was infectious. Children who had once hesitated were now fully engaged, cheering each other on, sharing laughter, and enjoying the simple joy of play. The little girl felt proud, not just of herself, but of the community she was helping to create. She had stepped forward, faced her fears, and in doing so, had created a welcoming space for others. The playground had transformed into a place of inclusion, encouragement, and shared triumph. At one point, she noticed a very shy child standing on the sidelines, watching nervously. The little girl ran over and gently held out the ball. "You can join too," she said softly. The child hesitated, then took the ball, smiling nervously. Together, they played, passing the ball back and forth, laughing at small mistakes, and celebrating small victories. The little girl felt a deep sense of joy, realizing that her courage had given someone else the confidence to try. She understood that participation was not just about playing. It was about creating an environment where everyone felt welcome and valued. As the morning continued, the little girl felt her confidence growing with every movement, every pass, and every smile she received. She discovered that the joy of participation was not in perfection, but in effort, connection, and shared experience. She laughed freely, ran without fear, and even helped guide others who were still learning. The playground was alive with energy, and she felt a part of it in a way she had never imagined. By the time the game ended for another short break, the little girl was exhausted but exhilarated. She had faced challenges, learned from mistakes, and discovered a strength she had not known she possessed. She realized that courage was not the absence of fear, but the decision to act despite it. She had stepped forward, faced her doubts, and grown in ways that went beyond the game. Her confidence, kindness, and determination had quietly inspired others, and she felt proud of the small but powerful impact she had made. As she sat on the grass, catching her breath, the little girl reflected on the morning. She had learned that stepping forward could change everything, not just for herself, but for those around her. She had discovered the power of encouragement, the importance of inclusion, and the joy of shared experience. She knew that this was only the beginning, that each step forward, each act of courage, could open new doors, create new friendships, and inspire new possibilities. She looked around at the other children, now fully engaged in the games, and felt a deep sense of belonging. The playground, once intimidating and uncertain, had become a space of joy, connection, and growth. She had taken the first steps, faced challenges, and discovered the thrill of participation. And she knew that the courage she had found today would guide her in everything she chose to do next, helping her continue to grow, learn, and inspire those around her. The little girl felt a new excitement as she stepped onto the playground again. The sun was high, casting a golden glow over the field where children gathered for another round of games. She had played before, faced challenges, and learned that courage meant stepping forward even when it was scary. Now, she felt ready to see what else could happen. She noticed the energy around her had shifted. More children who had hesitated earlier were now joining in, inspired by the example of those who had taken part. Her heart warmed at the sight of them running, laughing, and cheering each other on. As the new game began, the little girl found herself in the center of the action. Balls rolled and bounced in every direction, children shouted, and laughter rang out like music. She ran, dodged, and passed with growing confidence. Each time she succeeded, her chest swelled with pride. Each time she stumbled, someone nearby offered encouragement. She had learned that mistakes were not failures but opportunities to try again and to grow stronger. With each pass, she felt more connected to the others, part of something bigger than herself. A shy boy who had been standing on the sidelines now stepped forward, inspired by her courage. She smiled and called to him, offering a hand and encouraging words. Together, they began to play, passing the ball back and forth, laughing when they fumbled. The little girl realized that courage was contagious. Her own bravery had opened the door for others, creating a welcoming space where everyone could feel included. The playground had transformed from a place of hesitation to a place of shared joy and connection. Other children began to notice the little girl's actions. A quiet girl approached, watching with curiosity. The little girl smiled and invited her to join, explaining how the game worked and offering support. Soon, the circle grew larger, with more children stepping forward, eager to participate. The atmosphere shifted from quiet observation to active engagement. The little girl felt proud not only for herself but for the ripple effect her courage had created. She had inspired others to step forward, just as she had. The game became more dynamic as everyone found their rhythm. She passed the ball, ran in circles, and cheered for others. She laughed freely, her fears of failure long forgotten. The joy of participation filled her completely. She noticed small moments of courage in others. A hesitant child attempting a new move, a quiet child cheering for a teammate, and felt a sense of shared triumph. The playground had become a space where bravery, encouragement, and laughter intertwined. At one point, the ball rolled toward a boy who had been hesitant all morning. He froze, unsure if he could catch it. The little girl ran quickly to him and gently encouraged him. "You can do it," she said. With her support, he caught the ball and passed it successfully. He beamed, and the others cheered. The little girl realized how powerful small acts of kindness and encouragement could be. By helping others step forward, she was creating an environment where everyone felt capable, included, and valued. She continued to play, noticing how the group had become more cohesive. Children communicated, guided, and encouraged each other naturally. The energy was infectious, spreading from one child to another, creating a vibrant atmosphere of joy and participation. She felt a deep sense of belonging, not just because she was playing, but because she had contributed to this positive environment. Her courage and encouragement had sparked a chain reaction, transforming the playground into a space of inclusion and friendship. The little girl felt a sense of accomplishment as she passed the ball to another child. She had started the morning feeling hesitant and unsure, and now she was a catalyst for confidence and connection. The other children looked to her for guidance, and she gladly offered it, explaining rules, showing how to pass, and cheering for successes. She understood that being part of a group was not just about playing but about supporting and uplifting each other. The game had become a shared experience, filled with laughter, encouragement, and the joy of belonging. During a brief pause, the children gathered in small circles to rest and drink water. The little girl noticed that many of the children who had been hesitant earlier were now smiling, talking, and laughing. She felt proud that her courage had helped create this change. The playground had become a place where everyone could participate, where fear and hesitation no longer held them back. She realized that small acts of bravery could have big effects, inspiring others to try, to engage, and to believe in themselves. After the pause, the game resumed, and the little girl ran with renewed energy. She passed the ball, cheered for others, and guided those who were still learning. She felt a sense of fulfillment and joy that came from seeing others succeed and knowing she had helped them take part. The playground was alive with movement, laughter, and the sound of children encouraging each other. It was a space where everyone could feel included, where mistakes were opportunities, and where courage and kindness were valued above all. As the morning went on, the little girl noticed how much the group had grown in confidence. Children who had been hesitant at the beginning were now fully engaged, trying new moves, and cheering for each other. The energy of the playground had shifted completely. What had started as a small group of players had transformed into a lively, supportive community. The little girl felt proud to be part of this transformation, understanding that her decision to step forward had helped create it. At one point, the little girl found herself encouraging a very quiet child who had been watching from the edge. She knelt down and smiled. "You can try too," she said softly. The child hesitated, then slowly joined in, passing the ball and laughing when they made a mistake. The little girl felt a deep sense of satisfaction. She understood that courage could be shared, that her own bravery could give others the confidence to try. She realized that participation was about connection, encouragement, and shared experience, not just individual success. The game continued, filled with energy, laughter, and a sense of togetherness. The little girl ran, dodged, and passed the ball with growing skill, but more importantly, she continued to encourage and support others. She saw how small acts of bravery and kindness could transform the group, making the playground a place where everyone could feel welcome and included. She felt proud, happy, and connected, understanding that her courage had a ripple effect that went beyond her own experience. As the morning drew to a close, the little girl reflected on what had happened. She had stepped forward, faced her fears, and discovered that participation was about more than just playing a game. It was about courage, kindness, encouragement, and creating an environment where everyone could feel included. She had inspired others, helped them gain confidence, and contributed to a sense of community and connection. The playground had transformed, and she had been a part of that transformation. When the game finally ended, the children gathered together, laughing, and talking about the fun they had shared. The little girl felt a warm glow of satisfaction. She had taken a step that had seemed small at first, but it had sparked something much bigger. She had learned that courage, encouragement, and inclusion could change everything. She had inspired others, created a welcoming space, and experienced the joy of belonging. The playground was alive with connection, laughter, and shared triumph, and she had played a central role in that change. The little girl walked home with a smile on her face, thinking about the day's events. She had faced challenges, encouraged others, and discovered the power of participation. She knew that the courage she had found would stay with her, helping her in future games, challenges, and everyday life. She had learned that stepping forward, offering support, and believing in herself could create a ripple effect of positive change. The playground, once intimidating, had become a place of joy, inclusion, and connection, and she had helped make it so. The sun was beginning to lower in the sky, casting long shadows across the playground where the children had spent the morning playing. The little girl sat on the grass, her legs tired, her hair sticking to her forehead from running, but her heart was full of joy and pride. The day had been extraordinary. She had stepped forward, faced challenges, and discovered something she had never known before: the power of participation and the joy of inspiring others. She watched as children gathered together, laughing and talking, sharing stories about the games they had played. Some of the children who had been hesitant earlier were now smiling broadly, running and passing balls with confidence. Others were cheering for their friends, helping them when they stumbled. The playground had become more than just a place for games. It had transformed into a community where every child felt included and valued. The little girl realized that this change had begun with her own small act of courage that morning. She remembered how she had stood on the edge, unsure and nervous, wondering if she could take part. The memory of that hesitation now seemed distant, replaced by the vivid experience of running, laughing, and connecting with others. She had faced her fears, stumbled and fallen, yet each time she had gotten up and tried again. And in doing so, she had shown others that courage was not about being perfect, but about daring to take the first step. Her small act of bravery had become a spark that encouraged many others to join, creating a ripple effect that had changed the energy of the entire playground. As she looked around, she noticed children helping each other, sharing laughter, and celebrating every success, no matter how small. She had realized that participation was not just about winning or being skilled. It was about connection, encouragement, and shared joy. She had seen how a simple gesture, inviting someone to join, offering a smile, or giving words of support, could inspire courage and build confidence. The playground had become a place where everyone could try, learn, and grow together. Her thoughts drifted to the shyest child she had seen that morning, standing alone at the edge. She remembered gently offering the ball and encouraging that child to join. Watching the smile spread across their face as they became part of the group had filled her with a deep sense of satisfaction. She realized that her courage had not only transformed her own experience, but had also given others the confidence to take their first steps. The power of a single action, small but meaningful, had become clear to her. A parent approached, smiling warmly at the group. "I can see how much fun everyone had today," they said. "It's amazing to watch the children support each other and try new things." The little girl felt a quiet pride, knowing she had contributed to that sense of community. She nodded, a shy smile spreading across her face. It was a confirmation that her decision to step forward had not only impacted her own life, but had influenced the lives of others, creating a positive and lasting effect. The little girl began to reflect on the lessons she had learned that day. She understood that courage was not a single moment, but a series of choices, small actions that added up to meaningful change. She had discovered that participation meant more than just joining a game. It meant being willing to try, to stumble, to learn, and to support others along the way. Each attempt, each act of encouragement, had contributed to a growing sense of community, belonging, and shared accomplishment. She also realized that mistakes were not failures but opportunities to learn and grow. She had tripped, dropped the ball, and stumbled many times, yet each time she had found the strength to try again. The support and encouragement from others had reinforced her courage, showing her that participation was not about perfection, but about effort, persistence, and resilience. She had learned that courage and kindness could transform not just her own experience, but the experience of everyone around her. The little girl watched as the older children helped the younger ones, guiding them through the rules, offering tips, and cheering every effort. She felt inspired by the way the group had grown into a supportive, inclusive community. The playground was no longer just a space for games. It was a space for learning, for connection, and for shared joy. She understood that her own bravery had played a part in creating this transformation, and that realization filled her with happiness and pride. As the day continued, the little girl noticed children talking about the morning, sharing stories of their successes and the fun they had. Laughter and excitement filled the air, and she felt the warmth of belonging wrap around her like a soft blanket. She knew that stepping forward, even when afraid, could change everything. Her small decision to participate had sparked courage in others, creating a chain reaction of confidence, joy, and connection. The playground had become a place where every child could feel included, valued, and capable. The little girl's thoughts turned to the future. She knew that the courage she had found today would stay with her, helping her face new challenges, try new activities, and continue to support others. She understood that participation was a lifelong lesson, not just a one-time event. The joy of stepping forward, of trying despite fear, and of helping others do the same, was something she could carry with her always. She felt ready to take on whatever came next, confident in the knowledge that she had the power to make a difference. As the event came to a close, children began to gather their things, chatting excitedly about the games and the fun they had shared. The little girl felt a gentle satisfaction, knowing she had been part of something meaningful. She had stepped forward, faced challenges, inspired others, and discovered the joy of participation. The playground, once intimidating and uncertain, had become a space of inclusion, courage, and shared triumph. She had been at the heart of that transformation. Walking home, the little girl felt a sense of fulfillment that she had never experienced before. She had learned that small actions could have big effects, that courage and kindness could create change, and that participation was about more than skill. It was about heart, effort, and connection. She thought about the children who had joined because she had taken the first step and felt a quiet pride. The morning had taught her that every choice to step forward, to encourage, to participate, could make a difference in the world around her. By the time she reached home, the sun was beginning to set, painting the sky with shades of orange and pink. She looked back, imagining the playground filled with laughter and joy, a place where every child had the chance to be seen, to try, and to belong. The memory of the day would stay with her forever, a reminder that courage, even in small doses, could transform not only her life but the lives of those around her. That evening, as she shared her day with a family member, describing the games, the laughter, and the children she had inspired, she realized how much she had grown. She had discovered confidence, courage, and the power of connection. She had learned that stepping forward, even when scared, could open doors and create possibilities she had never imagined. She felt proud, happy, and ready to continue embracing life with the same courage she had found on the playground. The little girl had learned a lesson that would stay with her for the rest of her life. Participation was not about being the best or never making mistakes. It was about trying, helping others, and finding joy in shared experiences. Her small act of stepping forward had sparked courage, created connection, and inspired change. She had discovered that bravery, kindness, and encouragement could ripple outward, touching everyone around her and creating a world of inclusion and joy. As she closed her eyes that night, the little girl felt a deep sense of peace and pride. She had faced her fears, discovered her strength, and helped others find theirs. The playground, once intimidating, had become a place of courage, laughter, and shared triumph, and she had played a central role in making that transformation possible. She knew that the courage she had found would continue to guide her, helping her face new challenges, embrace new experiences, and inspire others wherever she went. The little girl had learned that one small step could change everything. She had stepped forward, participated, and in doing so had discovered the power of courage, the joy of inclusion, and the lasting impact of kindness. Her morning on the playground had become a story of growth, bravery, and connection. A story she would carry with her always, reminding her that anyone could participate and that one small step could truly change everything.